Hello everyone. Today I'll be presenting a policy proposal to address China's role in the global synthetic drug problem, specifically focusing on fentanyl precursors and how governance reforms can reduce global harms. Here is today's agenda. The problem is that China plays a central role in the global synthetic drug market because it is the primary supplier of fentanyl precursors and precursors. Philab Brown explains that China's vast chemical and pharmaceutical industries are underregulated with thousands of small firms that are difficult to monitor. This weak oversight allows chemicals to be misused or diverted for fentanyl production. Philab Brown also emphasizes that China's cooperation fluctuates based on political incentives and tensions with the U.S., often reducing its willingness to collaborate on the synthetic drug control problem. Overall, the core issue is a governance gap inside China's chemical sector, not a domestic drug problem. On to the proposed solution. The solution is a three-part governance-based strategy. First, China should adopt a class-wide controls on precursors and precursors chemicals so traffickers cannot avoid regulations by making tiny formula changes. Philab Brown identifies this as essential and it mirrors past successful Australia-Chinese precursor control cooperation. Second, China needs stronger enforcement capacity. Philab Brown notes that the number of inspectors is far too small for the size of the industry. Expanding inspection teams and creating specialized precursor control units aligns with EU models that have successfully reduced chemical diversions. Third, cooperation should be channeled through multilateral organizations like UNODC. Philab Brown shows that China is more consistent and reliable in multilateral frameworks rather than in bilateral talks with the United States. Now to implementation strategy. Domestically, China would implement a national licensing system for dual-use chemical exporters, require know your customer verification, and introduce digital tracking of chemical production and shipments, measures Philab Brown highlight as effective governance tools. Internationally, China should re-engage when UNODC information sharing and work with Mexico and the United States in a trilateral precursor control framework. This prevents China from shifting responsibility to downstream countries, a pattern Philab Brown identifies. Evidence from Europe supports this approach. Europe's integrated systems show that multi-layered cooperative structures produce better outcomes than isolated enforcement. The national academies also stress that supply-side actions must be part of broader governance to avoid worsening harms. On to possible difficulties. Several challenges may affect implementation. Structurally, China's chemical industry is too large for current regulatory staffing. Politically, China often frames fentanyl as a U.S. domestic failure, which reduces motivation to cooperate. Technically, traffickers innovate rapidly, creating new precursors faster than regulations can update. Internationally, bilateral U.S.-China tensions make cooperation unstable, which is why multilateral venues are essential. Finally, the national academies warn that supply distribution alone can push users toward more potent substances, reinforcing the need for coordination and system-level responses. Creating more systems for treatment and harm reduction will be necessary. On to expected outcomes. In the short term, outcomes include reduced diversion of precursors due to licensing, tracking, and stronger enforcement, better data sharing, and more consistent precursor controls through multilateral channels. In the long term, a decrease in the flow of fentanyl precursors to Mexico and other synthesis hubs. The combination of improved governance, strong regulation, and international cooperation would help reduce global synthetic opioid production and ultimately lower overdose deaths. Falab and Brown's analysis shows that improving governance at the source is essential for meaningful and lasting change. In conclusion, China's synthetic drug problem is fundamentally a governance problem, not a crime problem. The policy solution is a strong precursor regulation, expanded enforcement capacity, and multilateral cooperation. Strengthening governance in China's chemical sector is the most realistic way to reduce fentanyl precursor supply and improve global public health. This is my works cited, and thank you.